The footage you are watching was recorded just moments after 17-year-old Benjamin Elliott brutally stabbed his twin sister while sleepwalking.
Where's your son? Where's your son? Okay, we got EMS is coming.
The officers follow Ben's dad and discover Ben desperately trying to save his sister's life. After doing chest compressions for about 10 minutes, EMS finally arrives and takes over.
Okay, sir, can we take over? Can you step out? Thank you.
His parents, Michael and Kathy, were sleeping in another room when the stabbing took place, so they had no idea what was going on.
What happened, son? It was a dream. He said it was a dream, honey. What the?
Ben also made this claim about dreaming moments earlier when he called 911.
Harris County 911, what's the location of your emergency?
I just killed my sister. I thought it was a dream.
What's your name?
Benjamin Elliott. I just killed my sister.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
I stabbed her. I stabbed her in her neck. I thought it was a dream. Please, I don't want her to die. Sorry.
How old is she?
17. We're twins.
Is she awake?
Yes. She's like barely alive.
After noticing that Ben was whispering into the phone, the dispatcher wondered if there was anybody else inside the house.
Is there anyone else there in the house with you?
There is. It's my parents, but they're asleep.
Okay, I need you to go wake them up. Mom! Dad!
What's going on? I can't think. I'm so sorry. You what?
Ben's half-asleep father then rushed into the room and found Megan lying on her bed, covered in blood.
Oh my God.
I could see Megan's face. She was gray and just, I thought that she was gone.
We're going to have to start CPR right now. 1, 2, 3, 4.
As you already saw, EMS took over CPR when they arrived at the house. Officers then placed Ben in handcuffs and escorted him outside.
He said it was a dream, honey. What the?
I don't know. I don't know what this she's on. It was just a dream, and then it wasn't.
I'm gonna do a search of you real quick, and then I'm gonna put you in the backseat out of this rain, okay?
While Ben waited in the back of a police cruiser, the police were still inside the house trying to console his parents.
What the? Never been anything wrong with him at all.
Although they desperately wanted to understand why this happened, their biggest concern right now was the state of their daughter Megan.
I just need to see her.
See her.
We can't. No,
I
we
need
can't.
to
We
see
can't
her.
have her.
Take a picture for me. Let me see something.
Yeah, can we see something?
No, sir.
After being denied any more access to their dying daughter, Michael and Kathy were then forced to exit the house. Shortly after, Megan was pronounced dead. While the forensics unit took over the Elliott household, Ben was taken down to the sheriff's office. His bloody arms and hands were photographed, and his clothes were collected as evidence. He was then taken to an interrogation room for an interview. While he waited for the detective, his demeanor was strangely calm and collected for someone who had just stabbed their sister. However, it is possible that Ben was just in shock after going through such a traumatic event. Detective Freder Munoz eventually arrived, and Ben immediately asked how Megan was doing.
Is she okay? Yeah, last time I know about, she was being checked out by the EMS. She is okay.
At this point, the detective was well aware that Megan was dead, but he's intentionally withholding this information to keep Ben talking.
So what happened, Benjamin?
You ever have like a really realistic nightmare where like just everything feels real, but also off at the same time?
Although Ben has never done anything this violent in the past, this wasn't his first sleepwalking episode. In one incident, Ben unconsciously wandered into the bedroom where both of his sisters were sleeping. He then stood in the doorway in a sinister way.
Ben was standing in the doorway, not moving, just kind of staring at us. His eyes were like barely open. And then we told him to go back to bed. And he just turned around and went to bed. We told our parents the next morning, and Ben had no memory at all.
Another time, at a childhood sleepover, his friend found him eating a donut in the middle of the night, completely unconscious.
He would have to have gone, walk over to the stovetop, open the box, grab the donut, and then walk back to the couch where he was sleeping earlier.
Just the sheer confusion on his face, like he genuinely seemed baffled as to how that happened.
Ben tried to describe how he felt during these recurring episodes and explained that he was unaware of what he was doing until waking up. But the detective wasn't buying it. He asked Ben to provide a more detailed play-by-play of the night. Apparently, before Ben went to bed, he and his dad were playing a video game, which happened to be called Survive the Nights. His dad noticed that one of the knives in the game looked similar to a knife that he owned in real life, so he told Ben that he could have it.
Now, let me ask you, the knife that you had in your hands, where'd you get it from?
From my dad. He had given it to me that day. I was really enamored with it.
Once everybody went to bed, Ben stayed up late on his phone researching more outdoor survival gear and scrolling through Reddit.
Where would that phone be at right now?
Somewhere at the crime scene.
Ben is claiming that this was all an accident, that he didn't commit a crime, yet he just referred to his house as a crime scene. The detective noted this potential slip-up and listened carefully for others in Ben's timeline of events. The next thing Ben said was that after browsing the web for a while, he fell asleep at around 3:30 a.m.
So you go to sleep, what's the next thing you remember?
The next thing I remember is, like, the feeling of stabbing something.
As soon as Ben stabbed Megan, he became aware that he was sleepwalking and realized what he had done.
I was in her room, and I turned on the light, and I was panicking, and I tried to stop bleeding with the pillow that was behind her. I did that.
After about 10 seconds, he realized his efforts weren't working, so he called 911 for help.
So I run in my room, and I unplug my phone, and I dial 911.
How many times did you stab her?
Just once.
Actually, Ben stabbed Megan not once, but twice. Sleepwalkers almost always have a clouded memory following an episode, so maybe Ben was asleep when he stabbed his sister. But the detective refused to believe this bizarre explanation. He wondered if the twins had any underlying issues that could have motivated Ben to do this.
So how's your relationship with Megan?
Good. She's my twin sister. I'd do anything for her. We're pretty close for siblings.
No rivalry there?
No.
You guys having any recent fights or anything like that?
No.
If he didn't have issues with Megan, maybe he had a mental illness that caused a violent outburst.
Have you ever been diagnosed with any mental illnesses?
No.
According to Ben, everything was hunky-dory. He did say that he was struggling with schooling.
I've had some issues with school stuff sometimes.
But his problems at school were pretty minor, and he was clearly optimistic about his academic future.
I'm thinking about mechanical engineering. I'm taking the SAT, I think, Friday? No, Saturday.
About 2 hours into the interview, the detective finally broke the tragic news about Megan, paying close attention to Ben's reaction.
I'm sorry to hear about you. Megan did not make it.
The chilling lack of emotion from Ben after being told his twin sister was dead immediately raised red flags for the detective. Although Ben continued to insist that he was asleep and that the stabbing was an accident, his admission to the killing was enough for the police to charge him with Megan's murder.
Hello, I'm Len Cannon.
And good evening to you. I'm Mia Gradney.
A 17-year-old girl is dead after police say she was stabbed in her own bed.
The person now facing charges, her twin brother.
Detectives trying to decipher what happened inside this Katy home early this morning. Harris County Sheriff's deputies responded to a 911 call shortly before 5 a.m. Inside, they say they found 17-year-old Benjamin Elliott stabbed multiple times in her bed, a knife on the ground. Her twin brother, Benjamin, was on top of her, performing CPR. But investigators say he is their suspect.
The siblings are normally very close, and you really have that kind of bond between. But again, people have, things happen.
They seem to get along, one neighbor told us in Spanish. Just recently, he saw the twin brother pull out an umbrella to help his twin sister stay dry in the rain. How things went from that to a deadly stabbing has the community wondering what went wrong.
Ben pled not guilty and was released on bond after his family posted his $100,000 bail. Meanwhile, the forensics team was processing the evidence from Megan's room. Strangely, there was very little blood spatter where the killing took place, which was unexpected considering the severity of Megan's stab wounds. Other than the bed, the only thing that had a substantial amount of blood on it was the pillow that Ben had supposedly used to manage the bleeding. The investigators believed that the only logical explanation was that Ben was covering Megan's head with the pillow at the time of the attack, blocking the blood from getting everywhere. Ben insisted that this was all the result of a bad sleepwalking episode, but even his own attorneys struggled to believe this claim. They wondered if Ben actually had schizophrenia, just like his grandfather. However, after a series of psychological tests, it was clear that Ben wasn't suffering from any psychological issues. So they brought him to a neurologist named Dr. Gerald Simmons, who specializes in sleep disorders. After several tests, his conclusion was that Ben was likely experiencing a parasomnia episode, specifically sleepwalking, when he killed Megan. Ben's defense team hoped that Dr. Simmons' findings would be enough to have the charges dropped. However, the prosecution made it clear that they were not backing down, and in April of 2023, a grand jury indicted Ben for the first-degree murder of his sister. The prosecutors offered Ben a plea deal. If he pled guilty to first-degree murder, they would limit his sentence to 30 years in prison. Ben turned down this offer, and on February 18, 2025, 3.5 years after Megan's death, his trial began. In the prosecution's opening statement, they told the jury that the sleepwalking defense is complete nonsense because Ben's statements contradicted the core principles of sleepwalking.
Number one, you have no short-term memory if you're sleepwalking. The prefrontal cortex of your brain is turned off. You don't have memories from the moments leading up to sleepwalking. You don't have a memory of the episode itself.
The next thing I remember is like the feeling of stabbing something.
Number two, you're not dreaming. You can't, because the prefrontal cortex in your brain is switched off.
You ever have like a really realistic nightmare?
And your final principle, confusion upon arousal, disorientation, not knowing where you are sometimes.
I was in her room, and I turned on the light, and I was panicking, and I tried to stop bleeding with the pillow that was behind her.
On top of all of these inconsistencies, they also pointed out that the state of Megan's body suggested she was dead long before Ben called 911.
She's pale. She's cold. Her lips are turning blue. The only person that knows when the offense occurred is the defendant.
They wrapped up their opening presentation by ridiculing Ben's behavior throughout his interactions with the police, saying that this alone was extremely incriminating.
He calls 911 at 4:41. Hello? Hello? I stabbed her with a knife. He's whispering. And you'll see his demeanor in the interview. I'm sorry to tell you this, but Megan has succumbed to her injuries. And the defendant says,
As for the defense, they knew how ridiculous their sleepwalking defense was going to sound to the jury. So they showed the jury that their claims are supported by actual science.
Let's get kind of the elephant in the room out of the way. Is this just some made up baloney as a really creative defense? The answer is absolutely not. During certain parasomnias, in extreme cases, victims have been stabbed with knives or hit with blunt objects. Ladies and gentlemen, Ben was not intentionally and knowingly committing acts against his sister.
They also suggested that Ben wasn't trying to whisper during the 911 call. In reality, he was in shock and doing everything in his power to save his sister's life.
He's saying things like, oh my God, I thought it was a dream. No, she's breathing. Please, please. Please, I don't want her to die.
The prosecution called an assortment of law enforcement and experts to the stand and took the jury through all of the body cam footage, crime scene photos, and blood spatter evidence. They slowly introduced their theory that Megan had a pillow over her head at the time of the murder, suggesting that Ben had meticulously thought out a plan to muffle his sister's screams as he killed her. The only state witness that wasn't an expert or law enforcement was Ben's father, Michael. Right off the bat, the prosecution did something that shocked the courtroom.
This is a photo taken from an autopsy.
Yeah, that's Megan.
No further questions, Your Honor.
The state's decision to force Michael to identify his daughter's dead body was reprimanded by many who watched this trial. It's unclear why they couldn't have shown Michael a photo of Megan when she was alive, but some believe that the state simply wanted to torment Michael for supporting his killer's son. They rested their case, and it was now the defense's turn. They focused on the state's biggest weakness, their lack of motive. They called several character witnesses to the stand to show that Ben was a consistently good kid, and that his relationship with his sister was loving.
Ever notice that if the sweet kid or the tender kid changed into somebody else?
Absolutely not.
Did you ever know Ben to have any violent tendencies towards Megan?
No. The biggest drama they had was like Ben being a know-it-all when they played video games. And I feel like that's pretty regular. Like, it's just a good brother.
They also had multiple people testify to Ben's previous sleepwalking experiences to show that this wasn't something Ben just made up to get away with murder.
Ben was standing in the doorway, not moving, just kind of staring at us.
He was lying on the couch, his head on the armrest, facing my way, and he was eating a donut.
In fact, members of Ben's family testified about their own parasomnia experiences as well, including his great-aunt Martha.
All I know is I came to in the bushes clutching my dog.
Apparently, sleepwalking was a common parasomnia within the Elliott family. According to Dr. Simmons, this increased the odds of Ben having the same sleep disorder. Dr. Simmons gave an in-depth analysis about the sleep studies he conducted with Ben and explained why he believed Ben was telling the truth. There were two important observations about Ben's sleep patterns. The first important observation is that Ben had obstructed sleep apnea, which can trigger a sleepwalking episode. However, sleepwalking can only occur in stage N3 of your sleep cycle, which brings us to observation number 2. During Ben's sleep cycle, he entered stage N3 in about 11 minutes, much faster than the average person. This is important because although Ben thought he fell asleep around 3:30 a.m., his phone activity actually stopped at 4:17 a.m., 24 minutes before he called 911. This meant that Ben only had 24 minutes to fall asleep, enter stage N3, and kill his sister. For an average person, this wasn't nearly enough time, but since Ben entered N3 sleep unusually fast, this theory was totally plausible.
And what is your opinion about the events that occurred on September 29th of 2021?
That it was a perfect storm of circumstances. This was an event was a parasomnia.
In the rebuttal phase of the trial, the prosecution had the opportunity to call their own sleep expert to the stand, Dr. Mark Pressman. He believed that whether or not the defense's sleepwalking theory was possible, it was irrefutably debunked by Ben's recollection of that night.
I concluded he was not in a sleepwalking state.
How did you come to that conclusion?
He had memory. He is said to have come out of the state much faster than any sleepwalker could ever do.
After 4 days of testimony, it was time for the closing arguments.
Benjamin Elliott walked into his sister's room with this very knife, and he stabbed her in the neck twice. There's no blood spraying in the room. You know why? The only thing soaked in blood is the pillow that he muffled her screams with.
How could a kid who cherishes his sister, who loves her, who protects her, how could someone commit a crime that heinous unless there was a reasonable explanation?
Mr. Rucker and I have disproven what they have tried to sell you. Their narrative of what happened.
The biggest thing that they're hanging their hat on is the lack of motive. While I didn't give you motive, I did show you premeditation. It's no coincidence that the knife he used to kill his sister was the very knife he got the day before. They have been protecting him from the get-go. I'm a mother. I understand wanting to protect your children. I get it. But you can't let them get away with it. I want you to look in this courtroom. There are so many people here for Benjamin. There is not one person here for Megan.
I'm going to object to that.
Following this intense battle, Ben gave his mom a hug outside of the courtroom, knowing that it might be his last. After just 4 hours of deliberation, the jury had reached their verdict.
All right, for the jury.
We, the jury, find the defendant Benjamin David Elliott guilty of murder as charged in the indictment, signed by the foreman of the jury.
Ben sat emotionless as his guilty verdict was read aloud by the judge. His parents were in disbelief as they watched from the benches. Ben's sentencing took place the next day, on February 25th, 2025. The prosecution pressed the judge to give Ben 40 years in prison, saying that he clearly had no remorse for his actions. On the contrary, the defense called Michael's dad to the stand once again, trying to convince the judge to hand down the minimum sentence of 5 years.
The argument was made that your son has shown no remorse. How would you answer that argument?
That is stunningly untrue. He has been frustrated, he's been angry, he's been incredibly sad, he's broken down, literally on the floor screaming.
Now, the court has a decision on punishment to make in this case. Tell the judge, knowing your daughter, how you think she would want this to play out.
She would want lenience. She would want compassion for Ben.
After taking everything into consideration, the judge handed down Ben's sentence.
I look at what the jury has told me, and unsolicited, they told me to be lenient with Mr. Elliott. Stand up, Mr. Elliott. Your range of punishment is from 5 years to 99. I sentence you to 15 years in prison.
Benjamin Elliott was sent to the Connolly unit in Kennedy, Texas, where he will remain until the year 2040.